Do you want to set us
Next
up
one.
our next story? Qatar World
Yeah,
Cup.
so this one's close to my heart. And World Cup kicking off on Sunday. I admit to sort of feeling a bit conflicted about this one because it's held in Qatar, which obviously has a lot of problems. So we wrote in International Intrigue, we did a bit of a deep dive on the upcoming World Cup and the expanding prevalence, particularly amongst Middle Eastern countries, for sports washing. The idea that you can launder your country's reputation through these big, glitzy, glamorous, generally apolitical events. I know you love sport. What's your take on this, Dmitry?
Yeah, I just had to Google what sport the World Cup is. All these notes I have on horse racing are worthless now. But okay, this is going to be a blisteringly hot take based on very little sports knowledge, but maybe it'll be relevant to somebody. The one thing that I keep coming back to is that we are going to be in this situation over and over again with big events, whether it's the World Cup, whether it's the Olympics, because we have very ill-defined what we want out of a host. And the current metrics that we use for a host are basically like, what can you offer the Olympic Committee or what can you offer FIFA? How many stadiums are you willing to put up? How many brand deals are you willing to do? And frankly, historically, it feels like, are you willing to be less than scrupulous in how you engage with the selecting committee? Famously, there were accusations that those who picked Sochi for the Winter Olympics received like houses by way of gifts from Vladimir Putin. So my one sense is we're all outraged about Qatar now, but this is just going to keep happening until we fundamentally change what we want out of a host.
Yeah, I think that's bang on. Kind of twas ever thus, though. I mean, the Olympics, in a way, is the original idea of getting over political differences and coming together under a banner. And in one sense, one person's sports washing is another person's kind of putting aside our differences and coming together over shared humanity, if you want to be kind of
Oh,
very
I mean,
generous with your interpretation.
the Pope suggested that everybody in Ukraine stop shooting at each other for a month to watch the
Right,
football,
right.
which
Yeah.
did not necessarily win His Holiness a huge amount of fans in Ukraine. But, that was the approach of like, can this be a peace building thing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I think that I have 1,000 thoughts on this kind of stuff.
All right, so I'm
But
definitely starting the timer then, if you've got
yeah, so
1,000
start it
thoughts.
and yeah, exactly, please. Otherwise, I'll ramble. But I think there's a couple of things. One, it's very interesting to see the collapse of FTX in the last couple of weeks and noticing that crypto, as a general principle, has sponsored giant sporting arenas all over the US in the very same kind of principle of washing their reputation, or at least trying to gain legitimacy in the eyes of sports fans, who are a lot of the population. This is no different. Qatar has an appalling record on human rights, particularly when it was building the stadiums for the World Cup. I think 6,500. I think that's right. Migrant workers died constructing them, which is just an unfathomable amount of people to people in Western countries to die building buildings. But it's a big problem. I know the English Premier League has, Newcastle United was bought by Saudis. Chelsea was owned recently by a Russian oligarch. So I think countries are going to have to start thinking about how they put in regulatory regimes to sort of at least audit this when people are trying to sports wash.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to get away from the sense that these kind of purchases are large, really prestige investments that people with a lot of money make. And
Yeah.
whether it's FTX or whether it is
Saudis.
Qatar, the Saudis, you're not always going to be completely comfortable with how the money that makes that purchase happen was made.
Yeah.
I think it's just sort of something we have to, as you say, perhaps something for regulators to look at. But anytime you get regulators into the business of deciding who's moral enough to buy something, people get nervous too. So,
well, that's true. I mean, they already do that in a lot of sports. You have fit and proper ownership tests. But yeah, I agree. It's a difficult question.
I just need Elon Musk to buy all sports and kill them off so that I understand conversations again. I grew up in Australia, guys. You have no idea what it was like. I didn't know anything that was happening for like 23 years. I'm the real victim here, is I guess what I'm saying.